right now are a more advanced society. In fact, this century, we're expecting to see over 1,000 times the amount of progress we saw in the last century. Remember that century that brought us planes and the internet? Yeah. It brings me to something called the 6 Ds of exponential technology. And this will really hit home just how fast technology is now moving. So once a technology becomes digitized, meaning a series of zeros and ones, it becomes an information-based technology, and it hops on that exponential curve, right? And if you think about it, we are right now digitizing our entire world. Our relationships, our memories, everything to do with our bodies is becoming digital. Exponential technology is deceptive. At those early stages, it actually moves more slowly than linear. You can see that, right? But then it hits that inflection point, and it goes to the sky, right? So I want a raise of hands in the audience. How many people think 3D printing is a 1 to 10-year-old technology? Raise your hand. Okay? How many people think it's B? 11 to 20. Okay? What about C? 21 to 30. All right, well, 3D printing is actually a 25 to 30-year-old technology, but it has only recently hit its inflection point. Exponential technology is disruptive. It can take down entire industries in what feels like a matter of months. Of course, Uber being a prime example of that, catalyzed by networks, computing systems, and obviously being able to utilize the power of the crowd. Right? Here is another good example of how disruptive technology can be. It's what's called the Kodak moment, right? 1996, Kodak was a $38 billion company, 140,000 employees. Instagram started in 2010. 2012, Kodak declares bankruptcy. 2 months later, Instagram is acquired with a $1 billion valuation and only 13 employees. In fact, it is expected that over 40% of the Fortune 500s are going to be disrupted in some way in the next few years. Brings me to the point of you need to think about, in this new age of technology, what business are you in? In fact, this is Steve Sasson. He was in his 20s back in 1975, worked for Kodak. And he is the one who invented the digital camera, right? He was so excited. He went to management. He's like, look what I did. And they said, no way. We are not going to develop that. We are in the paper and chemicals industry. And if we have a digital camera, it's going to disrupt our own revenue stream. They didn't understand what business they were in. Personally, I think they were in the business of preserving memories, right? How many people have heard of Under Armour? Do you guys have that company here? Okay, so it's essentially a clothing company with sensors for athletes doing a lot of, tracking. Well, they do not think of themselves as a hardware or a clothing company at all. First and foremost, they think of themselves as a data company and a community company. In fact, they have partnered with IBM Watson, and they are starting to do a lot of analytics. They have acquired the world's largest food diary database, right? And they're going to come up with insights. In fact, they have recently hired this year 350 app developers. Not what a traditional clothing company would do, right? Exponential technology demonetizes and dematerializes things. I like to talk about these things in conjunction with each other because they're very similar. To demonetize is to take the money out of something. To dematerialize is to no longer need it to exist as a separate unit. All of us in the audience today, we are carrying around over $1 million worth of 1980s and 1990s technology in our smartphones, right? And Instagram, that free editing software most of us use, that was a $2 million software package just 10 years ago. And lastly, exponential technology democratizes things, makes it available to a large number of people. In fact, an African farmer today has more computing power in the palm of his hand than Bill Clinton did during his presidency. All right, so let's switch gears and start to talk about how technology is impacting the patient. So let's start with a scenario. So you've heard of all of these point-of-care diagnostic devices. What that means is the diagnostic device comes to the patient versus the patient having to go to like the clinic or the hospital. So take, for example, the AliveCore EKG monitor. Fits on your iPhone case or your Apple iWatch, takes clinical-grade EKG readings, right? Then you send the data up to the cloud, where it's going to be analyzed by artificial intelligence. And if there's something wrong, it will alert your doctor, and you can see your physician via telepresence medicine, right? FaceTime, Skype, or even robot. What about potentially getting your medication delivered by drone? Of course, we are starting to see drones go on the exponential trend. It's going to be a multi-billion-dollar industry over the next few years. There's a company called Zipline with about $18 million of funding out of Silicon Valley, somewhere in California, actually. They are working in Rwanda, and they are creating the world's first nationalized drone delivery system specifically for healthcare. They've partnered with UPS because they want the transportation data. We're starting to see drones be developed in other areas of medicine. This is a company here out of the EU doing flying defibrillators. They are able to go 60 miles an hour, and they are hoping to be able to reach a heart attack victim in under 60 seconds. If they are able to achieve this, they will increase survival rates from 8% to 80%. And flying cars, we now have them, right? This is a one-person ambulance drone. Carries 265 pounds and can fly for 23 minutes. This one launched, pun intended, at CES last year. There's a company called Lung Biotechnologies in the transplant industry in the United States, already in talks with this company to do 1,000 units for them so that they can do organ transplants much more quickly. So right now, we are entering a perfect storm of technological advancements, really enabling what I like to call the era of the patient. So let's start out with the medical science. And we all know genetic sequencing is not only on the exponential trend, but it is dramatically outperforming Moore's Law. 2001 cost $100 million just to sequence that first genome, and $2.6 billion to get to that point. Today, we are under the $1,000 mark. That is the inflection point. Experts the world over agreed would make the difference. We are going to see over the next 5 to 10 years the dollar, if not the penny genome, right? And we are going to be able to sequence the world. Predictive analytics, early onset diagnostics, and even a leap towards stage 0 medicine.